got a listener question today. A few different pieces, but kind of all tied together nicely, I think. The question is, I have a few stage planning questions. Do you think that counting your steps and basing the stage plan basing a stage plan on fewest steps is a valid way of stage planning? The next question is, I've also heard some GMs saying if you come up to a target array with 3 or more paper targets, it's better to stand and deliver on them, even if it's possible to engage them while moving. Have you found this to be true? Let's assume they are all open paper targets. Well, I hate the always and never stuff for USPSA because there's just too many variables. For example, let's do I'll do the first question first. So, counting your steps and basing the stage plan on fewest steps. The thing you have to consider is flow and how things work. So, for example, let's say, got the old John McClane special today. If I'm shooting I'm left-handed and I'm moving towards my left and I'm shooting the targets from left to right, that's going to make it more easy for me. Let's say it's one step more. Let's say it's 2 steps more. But the same situation I could do, I'd have to move, being a left-handed shooter, I'm going to start on the left-handed side and move towards my right. So every single target I face, I'm going to have a tougher time leaning. So for 2 steps difference, would that make any sense? Well, I'll suggest you need to consider stage flow, or kind of like what feels better, because those 2 extra steps that you take would be well worth it to be moving towards, your gun side, your dominant side, and make it way easier to bend as you're shooting targets. Honestly, it's just easier to shoot the targets in every possible way. So it's like, that's the short answer. No, I think it's totally stupid counting steps. However, if it's like 10 steps different or 15 steps different, or if you just kind of look at it with common sense, yeah, you'd be a total idiot to do that. Then of course, for that part, the steps would matter. But I think flow is the thing that people kind of miss, or that you should be taking into consideration when you're looking at stage planning. Kind of another example would be, well, it kind of tie into this next question, but let's say you have a way to kind of blend the positions. So there's a wall or something kind of separating some stuff, and you could shoot a little bit of stuff. You could maybe shoot your way in, then shoot your way out, then move the gun right over and start shooting on the next array. If you shot USPSA before, use your imagination. There's tons of scenarios like that. So there might be a preferential way that if you walk through them, it makes it easy to have kind of the last target of the first array you want to shoot disappear as the next target for the next array is appearing, and you kind of just find a way to flow through it naturally, or it feels like it's easy for you to navigate. On the flip side to that, maybe you're squatted with the heavy hitter or somebody that's better than you or same talent, but for whatever reason, they choose a plan. You look at it, and you're like, man, that looks really uncomfortable. So, for example, maybe it's like a really hard lean, or for example, let's say there's a really, really tough lean where you're going to be off balance, and you have the option to shoot that later on the stage or earlier in the stage. Well, I might look at that and be like, hey, I'd rather end there if all things being equal, because it's going to be tough to get out of it. Or, like I said, looking at the blending considerations, it's so many situations that it's tough to put rules on this stuff. Some of it is just that you learn from experience doing it, and just having your gut kind of speak to you, because you might look at an array and just like the way it flows because it's easy to remember. You like the way that you're going to move through it. It feels natural. It's the right spot for you to do the mag change that you want to do, or you're not worried about breaking 180, or just for whatever reason. So I think flow is way more important than counting 1 or 2 steps. But it's not something I can put a rule on it. Well, if it's this situation, you do this. So this stuff, you just kind of have to do it by seeing it. I did put up a video, well, I don't know, I'm terrible at keeping track of this, a couple weeks ago, about stage planning. I was just, I had my GoPro on, I just recorded me and some of my homeboys walking through a stage and talking through the options. So if that's helpful, maybe that'd be something you want to look at. But for that stage, you're kind of starting in the back left corner, and some people, it's all let's say there's 4 GMs in the squad. One dude chooses right off the rip to draw and shoot some targets diagonally. One guy draws and shoots the close ones. You know, it's like everyone has a little bit different. There's like a couple middle sections. The one guy wants to shoot him diagonally. I chose to wait and kind of shoot him as I rolled through the middle. But there's a bunch of different options, and the stage like results ended up being about the same. It was just execution. But when I looked at that, I looked at the way the other guys were shooting it, and I didn't like it. I just had a way that like it seemed like it all fit together really well, and I thought I'd have the gun up and walk through it, and it's easy to remember. So that's the stuff. That's your intuition speaking to you, and I would just, as long as it's not a totally dumb stage plan, I would just do whatever feels the most natural. You think flows well. So the next question, which will kind of tie in, he's heard some GMs saying, which I'm assuming this is not a GM that's ever won anything, saying if you come to a target array, I hate to be unkind, but it's true, with 3 or more paper targets, it's better stand and deliver. So, for example, let's say they're all 5-yard targets, and you're like moving from whatever, left to right, right to left. There's an open area, and you've got 3 targets at 5 yards. It would probably make more sense just to keep moving and shoot them while moving compared to run, stop, hammer the 3 targets, and then run. However, sometimes people want to shoot on the move so badly that there's like nothing really to be gained. So for example, let's say there's dummy targets. Here we go. So let's say in a match, you got a target and like from here down is a no-shoot. So it's the top half of this thing. This thing is at 10 yards. Could I hit that while moving? Probably. Would I be moving very fast? Probably not. So then you're like, what is the juice actually worth the squeeze? Because coming to a full stop, waiting for my sight to stop and shooting a reactive pair compared to shooting a reactive pair while I slowly walk, heel to toe, or whatever you want to come up with saying, but walking through, setting my feet down gently, kind of watching the sight, gradually applying pressure. It's going to take a lot more work to get those shots done. So to tie into the previous question, it's like, it's not really an always and a never. However, on this one, in your training, I would encourage you to try this both ways on a timer for hit factor scoring, which is points divided by time for gamer nerds anyway. All you gotta do, set up a cone or set up a couple cones for like a beginning and end spot. So for example, set up a cone for a starting point, have 3 targets set at different difficulties, and a second cone to maybe you want to stop to shoot them at, and a third cone to travel to. The first iteration, stand on the first cone, run hard to the second cone, shoot the 3 targets, then run hard to the third cone. Maybe you have one more target or whack your timer or something like that to give you time. Otherwise, the second iteration, start on cone 1, and then just shoot target 1, 2, 3 as you move to cone, like bypassing cone 2, as you run to cone 3 and slap your timer to give you time, or maybe you set up one more target there to shoot. Then like look at the variables. What do the hits look like? What were you capable of? For the most part, you want to be able to shoot while moving and leverage your abilities, but the targets if there's 3 targets at, let's say there's 18, 25, and 30 yards. Some people want to shoot on the move just because, like, oh, shooting on the move, I can do it. That would be pretty dumb. I would just stop, post up, shoot the points, and then roll out of there. But if they're lesser difficulty, or if this person said, let's assume they're all open paper targets. Again, open and partials don't tell the tale either. It's like this isn't a rule, because if they're all open targets at 50 yards, probably no. If they're all partial targets, but partial, let's say they all have no shoots on them, but the no shoot is from here down. But yeah, at 5 yards, I'm going to shoot those while moving. There's no reason to slow down. The no shoot's just kind of there as something to maybe make you afraid. But at 5 yards, it's not going to be a challenge. Plenty of A-zone. You could just shoot color confirmation and shoot 3 targets like that while you move. So, sorry for not answering your question directly with a yes or a no, but I would say you need to set some of the stuff up at training to learn what you're capable of, what you can and can't do. Whether you're a USPSA nerd or you just like the idea of being fast and accurate, setting up stuff and just testing, like shooting targets on the move, running stop, like pop, stop and pop, stop, stable, shoot a couple targets, then run. what's faster, what can you do, what targets should you stop and shoot? Because there'll be times, if you go to like, competitive events, somebody will try to shoot something on the move, and I'll be like watching it, not saying anything. I'm like, what is this person thinking? Like, I already can tell the story's going to end. It looks like they're having a really tough time. It's a difficult target. Or I'm thinking like, man, I don't think I feel comfortable doing that. I can't believe they're doing that. But then at the end, look at the results. It's like, well, it wasn't exactly what they wanted. Just because sometimes you lack awareness of like what you can and can't do. Saw somebody else do it, think you could do it. So what I'd have to say is, like for either one of these questions, there's not an always like a yes or a no or a rule to apply. It'll be a bit of your gut feeling. So when you see the stuff in a match, if you've practiced similar things, you could just look at it and be like, yep, I can do that. Nope, I can't. Or, for example, let's say it's a harder shot. Then you start to think about what it's going to actually take. 25-yard partial. Yes, I know I can make this shot. I'm going to focus my firing hand. I'm not going to shoot color confirmation. I need stop, stable, dot. So I'll wait till my dot stabilizes. I'll press the trigger, let it lift. I'll keep laser focusing. At some point, I'll come back down. I'll see my dot stop a second time. Then I'll press the trigger. And I know from experience and training, that's what I need to be successful on a 20-yard partial. And the same thing, you see a tuxedo targets at 10 yards. Like, hey, just seeing the color of the sight's good to go. As long as I press the trigger gently and don't like push into the gun, I'll be just fine. So you come up with all these little things from training that you kind of know what you can and can't do and how to apply it. And then when you see it in a match, you're just working on the thing that you've already trained yourself how to do. So hopefully it makes sense. Sorry for not having an absolute yes or no or this is what you do. But I'd say like the second question especially, where it's like a rule, where it's like you're always going to shoot this in the move or always going to stop for this, that's a very flawed way of thinking. It's going to it depends. And I hate it depends statements, but for this it does. And you'll just come down to your training and experience, look at it, what you can and can't do, have you set it up in practice, and then you'll make a plan and just stick to it. So hopefully that's helpful, gives you something to think about. I'm supposed to ask you to like, share, subscribe, all that nonsense. But if you have any questions or need me to elaborate on this, just feel free to drop it below. And if it's an easy question to answer, I'll do so in the comments or just make a video talking about it. So appreciate you watching. Hope you have a good day.